Hello from the Christmas tree. We just put it up. Let me give you a quick little look-see. So, I'm someone who loves to look at how people decorate their trees and get inspired. And this tree is just chaos. And I let the kids kind of put it all in there, and I adjusted some things, but you can see some of this is just it's not secure, babes. But I made this little thing. I made this little guy. And the top of our tree is this butterfly, green butterfly, I thought it was very Y2K. It reminds me of the butterflies that would be stitched on my backpacks and stuff when I was a kid. But this video is all about what we're doing differently as a pagan couple raising pagan children and how we do Christmas. I'm going to go through a few things, major changes that we've made to the holiday, as well as a couple smaller ones. I do want to start and acknowledge, back up that Christmas has pagan origins. You have every right to try to incorporate anything that makes you feel warm and fuzzy and happy at this time of year into your practice. Even if it's songs that mention, Christ is King or whatever. It does not diminish your paganness to allow Christmas a place in your life and in your calendar. For my husband, probably something that maybe you could relate to if you are somebody who grew up in a church or grew up in a Christian environment and did a lot of work coming out of it. He doesn't like that lingering Christian feeling in his home and in his life. So for that reason, we've done a lot of big language changes. Okay, language. First things first, this is not a Christmas tree. In our family, we refer to this as either a Yule tree or a winter tree. We usually say winter tree. Calling it a winter tree has been really effective because it's a nice way to talk to our children about recognizing that some trees don't lose their greenness. They don't lose their leaves when it gets cold. They are evergreen. And so we bring a representation of that eternal life through the cold season, through the winter months, into our homes to warm us up. And we decorate it, we put love on it, we make memories around that icon to get us through the hardest season of the year. So calling it a winter tree really names exactly what it is that we're talking about as far as an appreciation for what we see happening in nature, why it matters to us, and what lessons we can bring into our life. So that's the biggest language change. The other language change is also a calendar change. So we don't actually celebrate Christmas on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve. We choose to celebrate it on the solstice, the true astronomical solstice. We sometimes refer to this day as Yule. And when I say astronomical timing, I really mean that. The whole idea of this time of year is that we enter into the darkest period. And on that darkest period, we have that moment of hush, the shortest day of the year. And then the sun starts to rise again in the sky, and we observe that happening. That mythology is carried over into the story of Jesus, where he was entombed for 3 days, and then he rose again. That's the 3 days where it's kind of hard to tell that the sun is rising again. It's about 3 days before you can visibly see with the naked eye that the sun is indeed going back up, astronomically speaking, in the sky. So for us, that is when we are celebrating our Christmas time, our Yuletide time. We use both interchangeably. We say Yuletide, we say Christmas time. It's fine for us, but we're actually going to do the celebration on December 20th, 21st, etc. And on the shortest day of the year is our Eve, and the first day of the year after that is our opening all the presents time. Let's talk traditions for a second. So I grew up in the 90s and early 00s, and for my parents, the funnest thing on Christmas Eve was to let us open everything. We got to open all the presents from friends and family, and then we'd play with them, we'd make a big mess, have a great time, go to bed, and we'd wake up in the morning and Santa had come. As beautiful and fond as those memories are, I recognize now that comes from a time when there were certain expectations to deliver to children of abundance of gifts, of showering them, of spoiling them, of that movie moment of Christmas morning. There was that. My parents also had the resources to create sort of effectively 2 Christmases in one. And third, I don't think we knew at the time how dangerous that level of consumption is for the planet and for our mental health, our well-being, and the state of our homes. So for that reason, I'm not going to be repeating that tradition, but I am going to allow my kids to open one gift on the shortest day of the year, and the next morning they can open everything else. Okay, the other thing that we do is Elf on the Shelf. This was like the greatest invention of all time because it's great for people like us who need a cool, fun, magical Christmas tradition that isn't necessarily just Christmassy. So if you're not familiar with Elf on the Shelf, basically it's this doll you can buy at the store. He's an elf and you put him around the house. Every morning he does something different and your kid goes, oh wow, that's crazy. Now, for you pagans, what we've done is the winter fairy. So I went online and I found like this like really pretty fairy doll that was very wintry. You know, she had like a silver dress, she had white hair. So I got her for like 8 or 9 pounds. And she was our elf on the shelf. And I said, the winter fairy is coming to our house next week. She's coming to our house. She's coming to our house. She'll be here any day. And sure enough, the winter fairy showed up on December 1st. And we found her taking a shower in our shower. What the heck? And she'd gotten like soap everywhere, right? So obviously my daughter, ha ha ha, this is the most hilarious thing ever. The next morning I had her fiddling around in the kitchen. I think she'd like spilled some sprinkles or something. The next morning she was hanging from the light and she had been trying to hang up like Christmas ornaments from the chandelier over the table. Like silly things like that. So every morning something silly happened. And then on the last morning, which was on Yule, on the solstice, the winter fairy was sitting on top of 2 big presents, one each for the kids. And that was our winter fairy tradition. Now, I am an asshole mom and I forgot her in one of the like boxes of Christmas ornaments that we donated before we moved out of the UK. I forgot she was in there. She was like wrapped inside the Christmas tree skirt so that the kids wouldn't find her, right? I don't know what to do. I think like a different winter fairy will come this year, I guess. So gifting traditions. How many gifts are we giving our kids? So I actually saw a really great, like something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read for gifts. I think that's a good starting place, especially for slightly older kids. For my kids though, you know, they're still young, they're still little, and I can give them things that they feel are presents, like a new pack of crayons is very exciting for them. And so I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up lots of small little things like that they can be excited about, and then a couple of bigger gifts each. So in total, in my mind, it's like what, 4 or 5 presents mixed with things I was gonna get them anyway, like new coloring books and stuff. Now, other gifting traditions to keep in mind. So obviously there's a lot of pressure to give anyone that you care about a gift. Years ago, what my family did when finances started to get hard across our family is we just switched to sort of white elephant style. You buy one thing, we show up, we have a Christmas party as a family, we all draw things, you can steal that whole, I'm sure you've played that game. That's what we do. So for every individual that shows up at the party, you bring one gift to put into the gift pot, basically. It's a good time, especially if you are 17 like I was and received, you know, pressure socks, those like constrictive socks for flying on airplanes. It makes for like a fun exchange opportunity as well, because sometimes people are like really into what they receive. My husband's favorite Christmas present he has ever received was from my family's white elephant party. It was a Snuggie, and he'd always wanted one. But I just bring that up as an example of you don't have to give a present to everybody you know. If you're in a big family or a big friendship group, maybe propose something like that where there is a budget of maybe $20, $50, one gift per person, and you put them into a pot and do a game out of it. I really think that's a good idea. If you can't really change the culture of wherever you are, and you really also want to opt into a more pagan expression of this Yuletide season, I highly recommend that you hand make something for people if you have the time. And handmade and woven textile things brings in that like warm fuzzy thing that you want to do. Another alternative would be things like fire cider or herbs or any sort of like warmth giving thing. But of course the best thing to give is a card. Paper is recyclable. People like to collect cards, they keep them. Putting a nice photograph in there, a piece of art, a poem, gifting it with a thrifted book. Another way to add a little pagan touch to your gift giving is sending off a pack of seeds with whatever gift you are giving or in the card that you are giving. These seeds should be easy to grow. You don't want to put a lot of undue pressure on people, like something that you can grow in an old egg carton, you know? Encouraging the people that you love to grow something is a very pagan thing to sort of offer forward. It's a nice way, I think, to also celebrate the promise of spring will come, that the winter is going to eventually leave us. The snow will melt, the cold will go away, warmth will come, and we will have in its place fresh growth. And seeds are a great representation of that. These are very simple gifts that you can feel like, I guess, grounded in your pagan ethics of limited consumption and still participate in a Christmas gift-giving holiday. What will I be giving away this year? I'm going to be giving away nature-oriented Christmas cards, holiday cards. I'm going to stay away from iconography of reindeers, of Santa, of Jesus Christ, things like that. I like to opt for images of mountains, trees, snow scenes, just very much focused on the season and honoring the season that we are in. And I'm going to make a Christmas bark this year in my own little spin or style. I haven't quite decided what flavors I'm going to go with, but when I think of Yuletide more than Christmas, I think of things like orange and citrus mixed with chocolate and brandy. I think of really rich herbal tea blends. I think of a lot of cinnamon, like spicy hot chocolate to me says Yuletide. Maybe something different works for you, but I'm going to try to give away homemade chocolates or candies that have some kind of an herbal infusion, probably some almonds in there as well. And that's for my gift giving for people in my community. I'm going to be giving that to my daughter's teachers, my son's teachers at their schools, their respective schools. I'm going to be giving that away to coworkers, people in my neighborhood. That is my en masse gift for acquaintances, etc. For people that I'm closer to, I'm going to be giving away books this year and encouraging people to use better bookstores. Bookshop.org is the most obvious and best one. So music is another one. I love Christmas songs. I grew up on them, but my husband is not a huge fan of a lot of them. So we're playing a mix of like sort of fun jazzy Christmas music, you know, the classics. I love She and Him's Christmas album. Oh, it's so good. Zooey Deschanel is a wonderful singer. If there is like a particular motif in Christmas music that either you love or you don't like, a good one that comes to mind is like the Jingle Bell sound. Either that makes you just light up with excitement and oh my god, it is the season, or that sound might make you go, oh god, Christmas. You can isolate that sound and have more, less, or none of it. But I do think music sets the tone, it sets the mood, and as a parent, I really want my kids to associate different times of year with certain kinds of music, with certain sounds. And so that's sort of an ever-evolving process of finding beyond just like classical Christmas music, finding more than that. You know, are there Finnish folk songs that I can play? Yes, there are. Or are there certain record albums that we only bring out this time of year? My dad was huge with this. He is a record collector, like vinyl, and just has, and when I say collect, he has like 30,000, 40,000 vinyl or something crazy. So he has boxes that just get opened at certain times of year that he's sorted. And yeah, there's a lot of Christmas albums in the Christmas box, but there's also just like Whitney Houston's greatest hits. You know, there's just interesting stuff like that that we only see come out that time of year. And so now I associate Whitney Houston with the wintertime. Okay, sorry, I'm a little tired. I'm still like recovering from sickness, so I'm gonna lay back for a minute. The other thing is food. And here's where I'm gonna get, and this is why I'm laying back, because this is where I'm gonna get a little bit feminist here. So much of the holidays is built around the like servitude of women, like women laboring for hours and hours in the kitchen to prepare all of these sides, all of these complicated ways of preparing like a certain meat dish or whatever. You know, letting the jello set for 6 hours, all of the mental load of preparing and making sure all those things are not only done at the right time, but served at, 4:30 or 5 p.m., all warm and steaming from, one kitchen source. It's insane. Women already do so many hours every week of cooking and cleaning and mental load of preparing like recipes and understanding what's available in the damn kitchen, shopping for all of it. And the holidays just makes it worse. And it really exacerbates the gender difference for me, where you see, families will come together and all the men gather around the TV to watch football. All the women are trying to help each other prepare food, and the kids are just, being kids usually. It is one of the most disappointing parts of the holidays for me. So food is hard for me because I do love to cook, but I also feel like this undue pressure and the legacy of just how women have been exploited. Women being exploited in order to make the holidays happen. How can we reform this with a pagan point of view? Okay. So in my mind, the pagan point of view around Yuletide really comes back to the time of going inward, the time of resting, right? We see that the earth is going dormant for a moment. We see that the land is not producing. The divine feminine, if you believe that all of that is divine feminine, she is at rest, okay? So maybe so should the women. Maybe it's better to just be okay with eating a lot of canned goods. We're gonna have canned beans, you know? Let's have some canned baked beans. Let's have some tinned pineapple, okay? Some tinned, cranberry sauce. Let's dig through the freezers and get out what's already been in the freezer for a while and get that cooking. Maybe it's takeout. Maybe it's stuff that's already been prepared at the grocery store deli section. I feel like it's important to honor the need to rest. And I think that the food preparation and cleanup is some of the most stressful, difficult, and exhaustive parts of the holiday season. So, the most pagan thing, in summary, I think that the most pagan thing to do is to honor your need to rest and enjoy the process. If you want to eat takeout food, but put your energy into making like really fun cocktails, do that. Have a pizza and just focus on making cool homemade eggnog or something. Honor the need to rest and keep it simple. It does not need to be ridiculous. Lastly, I want to walk you a little bit through how we've prepared our home for the winter here. In Japan, it gets ridiculously cold. It gets as cold as it is hot. Like the world record for snow is set here like every year. I think it's like in Yamagata or something, I don't know, but it snows a lot, it gets cold a lot, there's a lot of cold wind, it's awful, it's harsh, it's difficult, especially because these houses, so you can maybe hear that, I don't know, they're thin AF, okay? These houses are built thin without insulation, typically. The glass panes, it's not double pane. We're not talking triple pane glazing UK style, okay? It's just you and the elements on the other side of this thin piece of glass. So the solution is to either pay up the ass for having that machine on to heat you all winter, or you do it the Japanese way and have a few interesting little tidbits around your home. So I'm going to show you those really quick. So this is our kotatsu. A kotatsu is basically just a table. This lifts up just easily, and you put a blanket underneath here. And then if you look underneath, oh, there's some interesting things in here. There's like a heater. You just plug it in and it heats up. This is my husband's foot snuggie. So he sits under here with the heater and with his feet in that thing. We also have it on top of this really thick, fluffy carpet. Because again, no insulation. Like even underneath this like soft flooring, this is like it's not real wood. This is like a foam for earthquakes and stuff. It's really nice. Stuff doesn't break on it very easily. Anyway, beneath this is just like the ground, just like dirt. So it's very, very cold. So this offers some insulation. So if you can like fall asleep here and it's really cozy, you shouldn't, but you could burn yourself, but whatever. Around the kotatsu, we have our bean bags. They're super cute. These are the kids' ones. Really, really cozy, and that does allow them to fall asleep, and then we can kind of, drape them with a blanket, and we can stay cozy all in one room. Now, the reason I show you this from a pagan Xmas point of view is that Japanese homes, for the most part, unless you have a very traditional house, they don't really have a central hearth anymore. They don't often have any kind of fireplace. Like old traditional homes do have a very beautiful traditional hearth with the kettle always burning. It's really, really nice. It's in the middle of the room, rises up. They're gorgeous. But 99% of people do not have that in their house. So homes are not built with a hearth. And I think for me as a Western pagan, I am European American, I do long for the fireplace, and I do long for that imagery, that feeling of gathering around a hearth, of a Yule log, if you will. Even separating all the Christian traditions away from this time of year, away from winter, my pagan understandings of winter are so centered around fire. Because fire is what gets us through. Without fire, without its presence, we would would just die. You know, you cannot make it through winter without the presence, the guardianship, the allyship, the respect for, the honoring of fire. So for me, the kotatsu has to be the replacement, because there's no hearth here. Burning candles is also a little tricky. You know, at any time there could be a major earthquake and I don't want something to catch on fire. I also have 2 little children. I don't want them to like play with candles or anything. So burning candles like freely, like having one always going, isn't really my style anymore. So because of all these circumstances, this table here is essentially the family hearth. And that means around it is where I will be doing a lot of my sort of protective energy work. All of the work that I would typically do around a hearth to honor it, keep it clean. I do have a witch's bosom that I would clean with. I'm using that on the kotatsu. I'm giving this piece of furniture a very prominent place in my psychology and understanding of my home, and allowing it to be literally the center of the house for the winter time. Sorry if that sounded a little like dramatic and weird or melodramatic and weird, but like all of the holiday fun stuff aside, like if we push away all the pretty lights and the gifts and the food and the music and the blah, 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 blah. For me, this is all about the seasons. And at risk of starting to cry on camera over how these seasons are rapidly changing and becoming more hostile to us, it's very difficult to process. You know, I think as pagans, there's a romance to be had for us in honoring the seasons, honoring the earth, because we are thankful. We are living in gratitude toward a planet that has been optimal for our continued existence. Sure, we have needed to, you know, create clothing and use fire and, you know, be in the shade of trees and sleep through hot afternoons, because obviously seasons are seasons and we like to be 70 degrees, nothing less or more. But on the whole, we have been blessed with a planet that has been suited to our species. And coming into a neo-pagan faith in the 21st century, it's a great way to really honor that, to face that, and see that as the greatest miracle. To be just so indebted to Mother Earth for all of the things that we've taken for granted as far as our climate and our agriculture and our livelihoods. But I think one of the responsibilities that we have as pagans in the 21st century is to recognize how much winter is changing, and summer is changing, and spring is changing, and autumn is changing. The seasons are changing, and Earth is becoming less and less habitable for our species. So as pagans, how do we respond to that? How do we acknowledge that change, process that grief, and still keep our celebrations? I don't have an answer. It's more just something to end on after some lighthearted Christmassy things. That's just sort of where my mind is at on a broader sense. You know, this year I'm honoring the kotatsu, and 5 years from now I'll be doing all kinds of blessing rituals around my air conditioner to get my kids through 40, 45 degree summers. It's crazy stuff. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any other ideas for me, whether for my winter tree or anything that you think would be cool to do with the kids, I would love to hear about it. Let me know. Let me know what you're doing to incorporate Christmas into your pagan life. I'm interested in that, especially if you're an ex-Christian. Really curious how you manage things. I didn't really grow up religious, so to me it's always been more of a fanciful holiday anyway. But would be interested to hear what you have to say. I think my tea is cold by now, so I'm gonna make another cup of that. Bye!